Hello and welcome to the second video looking at the Tau Empire. So during this video we're going to go through the upgrades, skills, favors and crew available. So let's crack into it, starting with the upgrades and starting with engine. So auxiliary power relays, pretty simple. Don't slow down quite as much if you get an engine critical hit. So Tau are pretty slow, so this may seem useful because you really don't want to slow down anymore, but Tau ships in general are also generally going to be standing still. You're not going to be moving a lot anyhow, so I don't really find anything that does this, like helps them in the speed department or helps reduce any speed penalties, all that useful. Alright, efficient plasma thrusters. Again, you're not going to be using it that often. You might use it occasionally to get out of the way of things, but for the most part you're not going to be using it constantly enough to want to really improve that combustion gauge. Emissions dissipator. Yeah, maybe before they had reworked the Cao Yang, but now that you don't have to be not revealed, again, you're probably just not going to use the special maneuvers anyhow, so it's a bit of a waste of an upgrade. Maneuvering thrusters. This, on the other hand, is useful because while you may not be moving, turning on the spot is something you may very well end up doing quite a bit of. So being able to rotate quickly is very helpful, especially against faster races like Eldar or Chaos, and just allows you to keep your front pointing towards them, which is what you really want to be doing. Right, under generator we have adaptive deflector. So this essentially takes the damage reduction that you get and applies it to your shield. Again, a critical damage on the prow cancels the bonus, but it essentially just means as long as you're getting hit in the front, your shield takes forever to deplete. It really does. It is quite an effective bonus. Additional void shield generator. Good old classic, straight up 100 extra shield points for your line ships and 50 for your escort ships. Auxiliary shield capacitors. Usually useful to take if you're also going to take that shield upgrade to your health, because more shield, so you want it recharging quicker. Navigational shields, not necessarily the worst thing in the world for Tau, as being able to hide them somewhere is good, though generally I don't go with asteroid fields except for the Demiurge. They don't take the damage from asteroids anyhow, so not really that useful, and you want them obviously sitting in the asteroid field, so yeah. Up to you though, if you plan on using the Demiurges quite heavily and want to sit the rest of your ships in the asteroid field, this could be potentially useful. Right, in our deck we have our enhanced battle bridge. It's a fairly solid pick. If you've sort of picked everything else you want and you're looking for something solid, this is a good all-rounder to have in there. Drone operator, so 3 extra defensive turrets. Never really have found it that useful to bother wasting an upgrade point on it. Right, advanced Cogitator linkages. This, on the other hand, can prove immensely useful as you're increasing the duration of your special orders of lock-on, brace for impact and reload by 50%. It is just useful. Right, improved auger array. So this is a useful one for Tau because they're often engaging at a slightly longer range, so having that extra detection range on your ships can be quite useful. So yep, that's that one. Hull. Stealth alloy. So ship is considered stealthy until it is revealed at least once. Not too bad for Tau because they do shoot at range. So they're often shooting from outside the range of other races. So if you've set the ship up right, you should be able to get a bit of use out of this, but you've pretty much got to base your fleet around that particular upgrade, which is why you'll notice I haven't done it, as that's not what I've based my fleet around. Right, Recruit Contingent. Yeah, extra boarding action. Tau aren't going to be boarding that often anyhow. I really don't see the point of this, but it's there as an option. Vespid Communion Helm. So you can raise the troop value of your ship by 2 per ethereal level. Means you can get an extra 6 if you're putting a bunch of points into all the points that you can into the ethereal. Hopefully you're not getting boarded that often. Your shields should start fairly alright, that lightning strikes aren't that big of an issue. And on top of that, you should hopefully anyhow be killing a lot of things before they get within actual boarding action range. So I don't particularly find having a higher troop value on tower ships that useful, but it's there if you feel you need it. Belt armor, always a solid pick. Again, it's one of those ones where you go, okay, I've got the ship fitted out to do what I want it to do. Let's start throwing on some just good solid stuff. Belt armor is always a good way to go. Right, under weaponry we have marker lights. So defensive turrets range is raised to 3000. So you can essentially be shooting at things from further out. Ordnance, torps, all that good stuff. Can be quite useful. Magnetic Accelerator. So straight up increase to your railgun range of 3000 units. Acquisition systems. So while using lock-on, all of your ship's weaponry gets an additional 3k units of range. Now here's an interesting one. Seeker missiles. So it deals 1 damage every 3 seconds per defensive turret to enemy ships in the defensive turret's range. And damage is mitigated by armor as per usual. So this was something that, especially during the beta with these guys, was very useful because it was actually 1 damage every second. So you combine this with your marker light upgrade, so you're getting that 3000 range, and it actually made this useful because 3 extra defensive turrets, well, that was an extra 3 damage a second. So it actually suddenly made this very useful. It was very popular. It's not to say it's bad as per se now. It's actually just probably more balanced than it was during the beta. Personally though, especially on these bigger ships, it's not something I want to rely on for the damage. Hence the reason why you don't see it picked, at least by me. Some people probably still run it on their escort ships as they're a little bit better for it, but overall not the definite pick it used to be. Beam Concentrator, so that's your extra 3000 for your ion cannons. Right, Nicassar Dow, so this is only available to ships with gravitic hooks, and it replaces your Warden with a Nicassar Dow. Much better ship, you want to be upgrading that. XV-46 Vanguard Void Battlesuit. So now, along with bombing, your Manta bomber also gets a boarding action. So as long as it gets there and performs an attack, you also get a boarding action. I have found this to be extremely useful. I would seriously recommend this upgrade for all tower ships with ordnance, which is pretty much all tower ships. Right, energy shield, so your fighters can sustain an additional damage before destruction. Personally, I don't feel this is that worthwhile, but if you find that you really want your fighters out a bit longer, or essentially they're getting destroyed as opposed to just running out of time, this could be the way to go. Right, so under skills, defense, well, we have the usual standard, the supercharged void shield. See there, essentially impenetrable for 10 seconds, quite useful. Emergency capacitor, cool, really bump up that recharge rate on my shields. Again, can be quite useful. I like using it on the larger ships. Right, under damage we have our 2 bombs. Our disruption bomb, which is ideal for taking out shields. And our plasma bomb, which is great for just straight up doing damage, especially to escort ships. You can just straight up kill escort ships with this. Remembering that they will actually take double damage. Right. Auger Disruptor. Yeah. Not bad. Not something I really feel I need as Tau, as actually killing ships before they get within range isn't particularly difficult for me anyhow. But yeah, it's there. Now this is a Tau specific one, the Gravity Wave Projector. So a 45-degree cone around the ship and 6,000 range. So this one I like. One, I like keeping enemies at range because I'm Tau. Two, against orcs in particular who just love to ram you, it's hilarious to watch them coming in for a ramming run, get hit by this, and suddenly they're just flying back and swirling around in place. It's hilarious, and they've essentially just wasted their big red button. Unfortunately, it does have a 2-minute cooldown, but I do really, really enjoy it. Right, so another Tau specific one, the repair drones. So it heals allied ships in the radius by 1 hull point per second. So that's fairly decent, especially as it's got a duration of 1.5 minutes with a 3-minute cooldown. Radius is 3,000, so generally speaking, you will have other ships in range with the way that you want to set up Tau in a fight. And you can obviously put this on multiple ships, get overlap, and you'll heal yourself and the friendly ship. The friendly ship also activates it. It'll be healing itself and you. So essentially you'll end up with maybe 2, 3 of these active at a time if you really want, and the way they feed off each other just really means you can get a lot of healing, on top of which you can still activate your normal repair. You can sit there and essentially repair more than the damage you're taking at times. So it's a pretty handy upgrade. Right, Void Shield Transfer. Always something I like to have sitting somewhere in my fleet. It's just really useful for keeping those shields up, and especially with Tau. They do have low hull points across the board in general for ships of their comparative size. On top of that, because I have given the upgrade to most of them that increases the strength of that front deflector field, I really like being able to maintain it. Right, Recon. Our standard, the Recon Beacon. So that's our nice stationary one. Nice 2,500 units of range at which you can see stuff. Really good for revealing things in asteroid fields or gas clouds that might be hiding. Attached to a ship, especially Chaos and other races that like to run silent a lot. Right, Auger Probe. Not a bad one to have in your fleet somewhere, especially because Tau is a bit more of a long range, especially with ordnance. Send those out so you can just start shooting at things that little bit earlier. Right, maneuver. Always the same, microgravitic jump. Yeah, pretty standard. Those who have watched my previous videos will know that I generally do stick these on battleships, and will notice I have not stuck them on this battleship. That is because, like most Tau ships, I do not want to be really moving it like that. On the other hand, I do have it on my Demiurge ships so that I can get that prow cutting beam right on top of someone if I need to. It is a great surprise. Right, and the enhanced induction cells. Again, not something I find particularly useful because I'm not using those special maneuvers often enough for me to really warrant spending points on this sort of thing. Right, so Favours. So essentially our Favours are the casts: fire, water, earth and air. And they're going to give more or less what you think, so let's go through them. Fire cast. Ritual of the Talisera. So it gives a +5 bonus to the troop value, as well as an additional +3 troop value per successful boarding action. So essentially, if you've got a whole bunch of successful boarding actions happen, remembering it's just boarding action. So if you've given that mantra bombing upgrade, they count, and you can start those from 12,000 out. So you can really pump up your troop value on your ship quite a large amount with this if you want. And then a Fire Warrior Breacher team. So when it performs a boarding action, the targeted ship automatically suffers a fire on board critical damage. So this isn't the worst upgrade, but again, you're not necessarily performing a lot of boarding actions with Tau. So I'll admit though, I did toss up a little bit because those Mantra Bombers, I can get off a decent number with those over the course of a round, but yeah, in the end I've gone with Watercast. Now the reason for that is I get a ship, I get a Nikasar Dow. Now it does start on cooldown unfortunately, so I've got to wait those 240 seconds and then I'll be able to launch it. Usually that's good because especially the larger ship here, it has its Gravitic Hook, it brings in 3 with it. This actually comes in about when I actually start needing the reinforcements to my escort ships. So I do find it actually works well in that case. And Diplomat. 1 free crew point to every crew member of the ship. I mean, that's just useful. It's just flat out useful. Right. Earthcast. Now, Earthcast is very popular for, well, 2 reasons. They're bonuses. Experimental Railgun. This thing just hurts a lot. Now, in saying that, it is a single straight line shot, so you have to make sure you've got the ship lined up. But it ignores shields and counts the armor at 25%. It has a stupidly long range, a stupid amount of damage. Does have that 2-second delay as well though, so generally speaking I'll use it where I've actually told the ship to target so that it keeps moving with a ship unless something's just heading straight towards me. So orcs aren't a bad one to use this on for that reason. 3-minute cooldown, not surprising, as you can pretty much just take out your smaller escort ships and your transport ships with this without too much of an issue. And then a free upgrade slot to the ship, always popular with people getting an extra upgrade slot. So Earthcast is a popular upgrade. Right, then we have Aircast. So Aircast is interesting. So it reduces the enemy accuracy by 40 while using your special maneuvers, which you don't really use that much as Tau, but I suppose if you wanted to move more you could. The improved ZFR Horizon Accelerator. This, on the other hand, is actually significant. It's an extra 50 speed on your ships. They're now moving at 200. That don't matter what size ship either. So your battleship can be moving at 200 and an extra 5 degree per second rotation. Plus I can still have the normal 5, so I can actually increase the overall rotation speed of the ship by 10% with the upgrade and this. It's quite significant. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I would count the evasive maneuvers not particularly useful, but the improved ZFR Horizon Accelerator is actually a fairly powerful upgrade. In saying that, you still aren't going to be moving that much once you're in place. So it'll get you into your position quicker, but other than that, limited usefulness. That extra rotation speed can be handy though. Generally speaking, I've gone Watercast on most of mine, with some Earthcast mixed in there. Right, so crew. So we have our Envray or Ethereal. So that's going to reduce our insubordination chances, which, as you can see, significant amounts to the point where we can pretty much stop them from running at all. Core L, our aircast officer. So this allows us to run without getting lost in the warp. Well, lost in deep space. Technically, tower ships never actually enter the warp, and reduces the disengagement delay timer by 2.5 seconds per level. Theo L, the Earthcast engineer. Yep, just always one of my favorites to pick. Pretty much doubling my repair rate. It's just useful. Right, the MV7 marker drones. So 25% critical chance of lancers and macro weapons. You actually have some fairly decent crit chances on those anyhow, along with some other bonuses which we'll get to when we actually look at the gameplay. So this is quite useful. Tio Vey, the Fire Warrior contingent, that's improving your troop value. As per usual, I don't feel it's worth putting crew points into that, but you might. DX4 technical drones. So reducing the cooldown time of your skills by 4% per level. Yeah, I'll always put all 3 points into that. Reducing cooldown time, I just, there's no downside to that. And the Corvray, the aircast pilots. So it's giving your ordnance an extra 10% chance per level to avoid destruction when hit. With these guys, with their bombers, that's good. So getting them through, getting them hitting the target is just good. So there it is. There's all the upgrades, skills, favors, and crew available to the tower. I hope you will join us next time when we will be looking at the basic strategies and tactics for a tower fleet.